All right, folks, don't go anywhere. We have a Hall of Famer on the show today. You're about to meet Terrence Murphy, and you may know him from his football years at A&M and his somewhat shortened career at Green Bay, but you're about to find out what a big soul this man is and understand about how big the dent he's going to put in the universe is coming up next on Cliff's Notes. Real estate agents, are you struggling with the day-to-day grind, dialing for dollars, putting in hours of floor time with little to show for it? Are you looking for tips, tricks, and tactics to accelerate your career as an agent that will have you closing more homes, working with more clients, and earning more money than ever before? Hi, my name's Cliff Freeman, and I've spent the past 2 decades of my real estate career running one of the top brokerages in DFW and personally coaching over 1,000 high-performing real estate professionals across North America. I created this podcast to share the strategies and tactics you need to explode your real estate business. I guarantee it. All right, friends, we are so excited to have you here today. You know, and I was just thinking, it wasn't that long ago, C3, that we got to spend an evening with Terrence and his lovely wife.
Did you say a evening? One heck of an evening.
One heck of an evening. Actually, it was it was biblical.
It was. That went down in the history books.
If you're a Texas A&M fan, it was a biblical evening. And let's go ahead, Terrence, if we could, let's bring this young man on here. I got to tell you, Terrence, I went to a little school called Rice, and the last time I recall, what happened with the Rice marching owl band at Kyle Field, it wasn't a good ending, and so I'd never been to a football game before, and we were playing Alabama. Bama was the one that I went to.
Texas A&M.
Texas A&M, and wasn't Alabama number one? Weren't they ranked number one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Number one in the nation.
I mean, I have a whole new appreciation for, and C3 went there. You played football there. You have a great legacy there. But I got to tell you, I have a whole new appreciation for Texas A&M football and the students and that amazing field. And I know you put a lot of time yourself on that field, but that was the best game. I told my son, I said, I will never be able to go back to another game at Kyle Field because it'll be disappointing compared to that one. Anyway, now we're back together again, and we are super excited to have you on the show, Terrence. So I want to give you a big warm welcome, and C3 here and I are just we're ready to roll, man. You were doing some incredible things. Tell us a little bit about what you're involved in currently on the real estate side. Just give us the 30,000-foot view here. You're in there doing development with rental properties and building houses. What's going on in College Station?
Yeah, man. So I'm personally own and lead 20 plus companies, and I'm invested in another 30 as a venture capitalist. And when I retired from the NFL, my biggest prayer to God was give me something I could be passionate about. And he showed me real estate. And ever since then, I've just went all in. Obviously, I'm a real estate broker. Now a part of the same company you guys are. We're doing great things with that. And even when I started TM5 as a startup brokerage, I scaled it to $1 billion in sales in 8 years with no franchise and no mentor. And so I just love growing stuff, and I love making stuff the best version that it can be.
That's amazing. You said $1 billion in sales in 8 years?
8 years in College Station.
Yeah. And no mentor. And so that's hard for somebody to do who's born into it, right? I mean, usually you've got parents or relatives or somebody that are kind of helping you along a little bit. I'd love to dive into that story, and we're going to do that. But what I'd really like to do first, Terrence, is you are a celebrity. Just like I said, this is a Hall of Fame moment here for us to have you on the show with all your accomplishments. What I'd like to do is, it certainly couldn't have been a smooth road to get to where you are. And we know a little bit about some of the things that you've had to endure, but you know what, let's just go back a little bit. And you were born in Tyler, Texas. What was it like growing up in a small East Texas state? Not small, but a East Texas town of Tyler. What was that like growing up?
Yeah, that's the cool thing. So we know Tyler, but I'm actually from Chapel Hill, which is Tyler Chapel Hill. So, so I'm actually from the country town outside of small Tyler, right? So I'm even more country than people expect. I grew up on County Road 25, grew up with a single mom, and I had 7 older brothers, and I was the baby, and they were hard on me. And I had a sister that I was the closest to. But you just learn family. You learn how to stick up for yourself really fast. And my mom had me in the church at an early age. So I gave my life to Christ at an early age. And I've always had that connection to God and to the Holy Spirit. And but yeah, you just learn a lot of lessons. But one thing you do learn is you learn hard work. If you don't work hard in East Texas, you don't make it far.
Who was your hero growing up?
I'd say my mom and my older brother. So my older brother is 10 years older than me, and he was like, won the state championship in 4A as a 100-meter dash guy, and then won the state championship in football. And it was the first time I've ever seen someone that close to me do great things. He had 60 D1 offers, and that's how I got to meet Jimmy Johnson when he was at Miami, R.C. Slocum at Texas A&M, a lot of the coaches back then that were in the 80s and 90s. I got to meet all of them when I was in elementary school. So it was a little weird for Coach Slocum because he had recruited my brother, and then 10 years later he was back in that same home recruiting me. But so he was my hero, and my mom was my hero just because I saw how hard she worked. I saw the sacrifices that she made. And she was hard on us. I mean, my mom was a no play around type lady, and everybody in East Texas knows that. But she really set a high standard for me. And I get it now that I have kids. She saw something in me, and she made sure that she stayed on top of me about it.
So she was tough, but she also helped nurture you, right? And encouraged you. How was she your Barnabas? How did she encourage you to succeed at a high level?
People talk a lot about coaches that poured into them growing up and who set a high standard for them. My mom was that. Like, if I struck out at a baseball game, I wasn't worried about the coach. I was worried about her. She was the one who had that high standard. I could hear her yelling over the fence. So when I went and played, I played with that mentality because she was the person she just said, you need to go out, and if you're going to be here, be the best. That was always her saying. If you're going to be here, be the best. And I never thought about being number two. I've always wanted to be the best at everything I've done.
Right on, right on. Did you play multiple sports growing up?
I did. Now that I look back as a 30-year-old, husband and father and, entrepreneur, I look back at some of those experiences that I had as a child, and I've always been wired differently. Even going into 4th grade, I remember I told my mom that I wanted to be the fastest kid in the school. And in my community, that's a big deal. And that morning of the event, I was up running hills and stuff at 5 a.m. in 4th grade. And she came out of the house screaming because she thought I wasn't in my bed. And I ended up getting a spanking the day of field day because I wasn't supposed to be outside running around. But in my mind, I was trying to make sure that I was ready and prepared. And that just goes to show the way that I'm wired. It was never about glitz and glamour and platforms and success and money. It was just I'm wired to try to be the best version of myself in everything I do. So that's what I've always pursued.
It's so interesting. You look at the class of athletes that had a strong female influence. I think of Dak Prescott here and many others. That is it. But you had 7 brothers, so you also had that testosterone around the house, right? I'm sure. And, probably a little bit of the way that boys, grow up being boys and that sort of thing. Did you get into any trouble at all growing up, Terrence, that you can tell us about? Or were you just always on the straight and narrow?
Yeah, this is going to probably throw you off because I've always been an introvert. I've always just kind of been to myself. And I've never really went looking for any fights or anything, but I'm real big on justice. And because I was an underprivileged kid financially and blah, 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 I know what it feels like to be the low man on the totem pole, right? And so I've never wanted other people to feel that way. So most of my fights would be me taking up for somebody else getting bullied. And in elementary school or middle school, if you're the fastest kid, the most athletic kid, and the kid who can throw the dodgeball the farthest, nobody really messes with you. But I would take up for other kids that would get bullied. I just took that personal. And I've always been that way. I'm real big on justice, but I didn't really get into any trouble because I'll say my siblings, they accomplished all of it. So by the time mom got to me, she just wasn't hearing it. Like she was all over me. She smothered me almost.
So you had an amazingly successful career in high school, and you got, I'm sure, how many opportunities or offers? You said your brother got how many? 60 D1 offers? How many offers did you get?
Yeah, it was a weird transition in our school because as we were winning all those games, the community really started struggling with drugs and guns. And so like in middle school, I used to have to go through metal detectors every day in middle school. And so by the time I got to high school, we brought in a new athletic director, a new superintendent, and a whole new set of principals. And they came in to clean the community up and try to get, our district back on the right track. Well, what did that do for all the best athletes that were smoking or making bad decisions and not, taking care of their grades? They wasn't on the team. So by the time I got to high school, we were 0-10 my sophomore year. We were 1-9 my junior year. And so going into my senior year, we were 1-19. And this is like in the 80s and 90s, everybody knows Chapel Hill is like fast and aggressive. So we just went through this weird transition. But because I had grew up around those state championships, I had a very high expectation. But we didn't sign a D1 recruit for about 8 or 9 years. So that being said, I had the vision because I'm a visionary. And I made my own highlight tapes. And I would go to the Bulldog TV lady and say, if I sweep the floors and clean out the warehouse, can I use your VCRs? And I would dub my own tapes. And I sent those out and I wrote handwritten letters to colleges. And that's how they found me. So it was just me not accepting losing as an option. I knew I was going to go D1. But I ended up finishing with about 17 D1 offers. And then I had another probably 10 academic offers. My first couple offers were all academic.
You weren't just in it for the sport. You also were a good student academically.
Yeah. So my first offers, University of Washington, UNC, North Carolina, these were major universities that offered me full academic rides. So, but I knew I wanted to play football, but I couldn't win academically to college and never picked up a ball, but I probably would have been miserable.
So how hard of a decision was it to pick Texas A&M? How long did you struggle with that, making that decision?
So my brother went to Baylor with Grant Taft, in the 90s. And I pretty much grew up down there at Baylor, just being there all the time. So they felt like, and I committed to Baylor just because it felt like home. But Baylor at that time was terrible. They were not winning a lot of games in the Big 12. And Texas A&M it's a strong university. Obviously the brand, the Aggie ring, and Coach Slocum was just an amazing man. And still to this day, he stays right down the street from me. And we talk on the phone a lot, and I go check on him. So he's like a father figure to me now. But Texas A&M was just a different place. And I ended up coming to A&M when we signed to like 5-star receivers. So everybody's like, why would you go there? And I just, once again, I'm a visionary. I pray about stuff, and I step out in faith. But I was a 2-star quarterback that came to Texas A&M and decided to move to a position I never played. And that was just a faith move for me.
Wow.
Isn't that great?
Well, it's, the way you describe your faith is that's your rock, right? I mean, that's the rock at the bottom, right? Sometimes we get there. What's the game that you remember the most from your career at A&M? Which one game was it that stood out for you?
Yeah, I'd say there's two. It's always hard for me to pick. We played Notre Dame, being able to play them with the gold helmets on. Stuff like that was fun. But it was the first and only time at Texas A&M history, other than the game that you guys were at with me, that we beat the number 1 team in the nation. We beat Oklahoma at home, and I had 2 touchdowns that game. I had like 4 catches for like 130 yards. And to be able to beat the number 1 team in the nation was a big deal. But probably the game that really was the one that really is dear to my heart was the first game ever at Kyle Field, my true freshman year. And back then, true freshmen didn't play. They didn't start. You redshirted. But I was on literally the 12th team when camp started. When camp started, I was on the 12th team. I didn't even know there was a 12th team in football. But I was that far down the roster. And by the end of camp, I worked my way up to second team. And so I went past a lot of guys as a true freshman to get there, all these 5-star dudes. And on Kyle Field, Bethel Johnson ended up cramping up. And I went out as a true freshman, caught the game-winning touchdown at Texas A&M, my first game ever at Kyle Field. And that was kind of my introduction to college football. People were like, who is this guy? But they started taking notice after that.
Wow, that's amazing. That is incredible. So wrapping up your career, you decided to go to the NFL, and you went second round, I believe, to
Yep.
Green Bay.
Yeah, man. So obviously Aaron Rodgers, you don't even have to watch football. People know who he is. He just got the biggest contract in the history of the NFL. He was my roommate. So he was the first pick in the draft that year. I was the second pick. We were drafted to be a tandem. And so we became really good friends. I was already doing really well. I was number 2 in the NFC behind Steve Smith, which he's going to be a Hall of Famer. And get drafted in the first 2 rounds, which is really hard to do. And I ended up having a neck injury and retiring and then, moving into real estate.
So it wasn't God's plan for you to make the Football Hall of Fame, but he's probably going to have you in another Hall of Fame here before it's all said and done. What you said real estate. What is it that attracted you about real estate? Most people don't go into real estate that young. Most of them, it's their 6th or 7th career, right? What was it that you saw about real estate that just really made you lose sleep at night?
My biggest prayer to God, and I truly can say this many years later, I just told God, give me something I can be passionate about. So like for me, I'm real big on being organic with my faith. So if it comes out in conversation, great, but it's just in my DNA. I'm not trying to force it on anybody. But I'm not also going to hide it, right? Matthew 5 is my foundational scripture, which is obviously salt and light. I'm not going to light my lamp and put it under a lampstand. It's meant to be on a hill. And so my biggest prayer to God is give me something I can be passionate about. That's all I asked for. And if it would have been insurance, if it would have been being a PE coach in elementary school, whatever it was, that's what I wanted to do. And at the time I was doing ministry at Youth Impact, which is a church here for underprivileged kids. And I was just saying, God, give me something I can be passionate about. And he showed me real estate. And I've been going after it ever since.
Did you look at, you do a lot of different aspects of real estate. You do brokerage, you do development. Did you know that you would be working in all these areas, or did you have a place where you started where you feel like you wanted to get a foothold in the business?
Yeah, so I was 22 at the time, 23, and the market started turning, stock market. And I was retiring. See, a lot of people write me off when they hear NFL, but I played for 20-some years for free. I only got paid to play football for 1 year in my life. And I didn't get second and third contract type money. So all the NFL for me was a start on life. It was like a line of credit to say, all right, now what are you going to do with it? And I had to go out and learn financial literacy. I read 40 books in 16 months because I was just trying to pursue as much knowledge as possible. And then as the market started turning, I called my financial advisor. I said, man, you got to get my money out of the market, bro. I'm not going to just watch it go to nothing. If I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose on my own education, because then I could at least know something from it. And that's when he challenged me. He said, well, what are you going to do? I said, I don't know, but I'll call you back. And literally in 48 hours, I read a book called Who Took My Money by Robert Kiyosaki, and that set me on a path. And I called him back and I said, I'm going to do real estate. So I started off investing, which it's in Dallas. It's one of the biggest capital groups there, Stillwater Capital. Those dudes are doing some great stuff. I think they just got the PGA headquarters. So I was one of their first limited partners, and as a 23-year-old kid. And so I would invest in their projects. And after doing that for 2-3 years, I decided to move to College Station and started investing my own money. And I started buying up stuff around Kyle Field and around the university. I started developing, and that's where I started. Then after people would see me doing these developments where I just literally taught myself how to rezone, replat, go vertical, they started asking me to help them. So then that's when I got my real estate license in 2010 and went to Keller Williams for a year.
You're self-taught, essentially.
Pretty much.
And that is, in this business, that's pretty much unheard of, to be able to get as far as you have. That's really amazing. I'm going to just pause and let me pause for a second and check in with the audience real quick. And I want to ask you, if if you could give some advice, we have an audience and we have some people who've been in real estate a good while, some who are new and some who are thinking about getting in. At that point in your life, I mean, that you just have the fortitude of, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, when you make your mind up to do something, what advice would you give someone right now who is maybe in their first year of real estate, battling this crazy market that we're in, and they're thinking about quitting? Do you have a word for them?
I do. So 2010 was also a tough time to become a realtor because we're probably in the middle of the financial crisis, 2008, 9, and 10. And it was a different type of market, but it was also a tough market to break into the industry. And I would just tell them, I give them three things. There's only wins and lessons. There are no losses. There are only losses if you quit. And two, truly get to the fundamentals. Find someone who can coach you on the true fundamentals. It's the reason I'm starting a real estate coaching program. I'm literally rolling it out in a couple of weeks. And I did a beta event a couple of weeks ago, and I had brokers from all over the world that have sold a lot of real estate. And I can't tell you how many testimonials I got from them saying, I've never heard what you're talking about in a training session. So I would just encourage them to truly get to the fundamentals of what it takes. Because it's not just being on TikTok and being on Instagram doing these reels. Like, there's really fundamentals that you need in order to succeed in any market. And it's just like football, right? You can think you know, but there's certain things you have to do in order to be successful. And I think a lot of times with HGTV and all the stuff that's going on, people are skipping past the fundamentals. And then the third one is really understand your why, because your why is what's going to get you out of bed every day. It's what's going to keep you going. And it's what's going to, like you said earlier, it's going to give you that fortitude to push through when you run into resistance, because you're going to run into resistance. So just know that's a part of being successful at anything.
Well, resistance is why we go to the gym, right?
Yep.
You got to break a muscle down to make it stronger.
Mm-hmm.
This is, I hope that if you're watching right now, you wrote that down. Those are three fundamentally core things that we all need to be doing constantly, even at our stage. If you don't know how to block and tackle, you cannot be creative. Would you agree with this, Terrence? Don't get creative until you learn the fundamentals, and you got to master the fundamentals. I mean,
The one thing I say when I coach agents, and I've been coaching agents for 10 years in the shadows, I'm just now coming to the public with my coaching program, is there's nothing sexy about the fundamentals. Nothing. And you got to be okay with pursuing repetition and boredom. You think about the Kobe Bryants and the Tiger Woods of the world, the Michael Jordans of the world. Like, there's nothing fun about Kobe up shooting 1,000 shots straight in front of no one in the gym. But you got to be okay with that repetition and boredom. And when I've learned to just like fall in love with the process, then man, it puts me on another level from a negotiation standpoint, from a creative, because I always say every problem has a solution. You just got to be creative enough to find it, but you can't be creative unless you have the competence. Because I always say 3 C's, right? Competence creates confidence, but you got to get competent.
%. So this is and I appreciate you sharing this coaching program that I'm very interested in that. Obviously, that's been a big part of what we've done and continue to do for people. As a NFL football player, you've had a coach most of your life. How important is it for somebody who wants to succeed in real estate at a high level to have a coach?
I'm real big on acronyms. I'm real big on statistics, because I think statistics never lie. And if you really understand the numbers about anything, whether we're looking at a business deal, an acquisition, whatever, you just look at the numbers and look at the statistics and just make sure you get it. But I always say, everybody talks about the cost of a coach in a seminar and paying for a mentor, but they don't think about the cost of being in the same place next year. And when you really understand that, that's deep, right? Like, oh man, I don't know if I want to pay Cliff. I don't know if I want to pay Terrence, but it's like, but what cost are you think about the cost of being exactly where you were last year, next spring. So I just encourage everybody, if I could do it all over again, I wish I would have had a coach and a mentor, but I just had the lone wolf mentality to just figure it out on my own. And I lost a lot of time, but I know now why God made me go that route, because it was able to give me the information that I need to now bring people along behind me.
Amen. All right. So tell us about your spirit animal. What's your spirit animal, Terrence?
What do you mean by that, Cliff?
Well, is there an animal that kind of reflects the way you work or behave?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, wolf. Yeah, so I buy ranches. I buy like a lot of ranches on highways. So my ranch company is Black Wolf. So Black Wolf is kind of my spirit animal. Wolves are very loyal. They really understand structure. They understand team, and they will avoid conflict at all costs. They don't want to really get engaged in conflict. And they're not like a lion that's prideful and the king of the jungle. That's not really, they just kind of say to themselves, but they're the worst that you want to get into a corner and you really don't want to get into a fight with a wolf, right? But they're cunning, they're strong, they're fast. Because I always say, you see an elephant, which is one of the biggest animals in the world. You see a lion and they're performing in the jungle. But I mean, they're performing in a circus. But tell me how many wolves you've ever seen perform in a circus. It doesn't happen. Because that's that lone wolf mentality. You're not going to be able to control them. So that's really been my spirit, is to figure it out. And if I have to be a lone wolf, great. If I can find the right tribe and pack to go along with me, I'll do that too.
Interesting. Is there any connection biblically with your spirit animal?
Yeah, I've chewed on it. I've chewed on it at times. You hear a lot about the lion and the lamb. But I think of Paul. Paul is the guy that I like to reference a lot in Solomon. Paul has some wolf tendencies, and I think, at the end of the day, we all are wired a certain way, and really understanding who we are. So one of the things that I didn't say earlier, I always encourage every real estate agent to do is get a personality test done as soon as they get into the industry. I literally have a training where I took a 4-quadrant agent. I took the DISC profile and I took 40 lead gen strategies and I put it on a chart, and there's 4 levels to it. And so now a lot of times you get agents that, let's say, may be really introverted and they think, well, I have to be out networking. But there are certain ways to scale faster. So most of my, for so many years, the reason I started garnering attention from the Berkshire Hathaways and the bigger companies and obviously EXP is my brokerage averaged 38.6 transactions per person. So my per person production was at 38.6, which is 4 or 5 times the industry average. And it's because I was taking personalities and putting them in the right seat year one versus them trial and error and wasting a lot of time, money, and resources just to figure out by the end of 16 months that they should be calling expireds or not call expireds. So it's a long answer, but I wanted to throw that in there.
You probably are a fan of Chet Holmes' book, The Ultimate Sales Machine. And, what we know from that book is the behavior profile is a better predictor of somebody's ability to succeed in a certain position than, for example, their resume. Because how many of us have ever had that perfect job right out of school, right? We've all had to get a job because it was all we had to put food on the table, money in our pockets. And so sometimes we would take a job that wasn't exactly a great fit. And then you sort of find your way into what it is that you're going to be. And I totally agree with you. And, I just saw that in Florida, the governor passed something that was going to require that kids cannot graduate high school without having a basic fundamental financial knowledge of mortgages and, credit score and all that kind of stuff. It would be really helpful. And I can just see the value and just listening to what you're talking about and your understanding of the business, that your coaching program is obviously very rich and full of, great things to help agents get that condensed version of what took you 8 years to learn, that you'll be able to deliver to them in a much shorter time frame without having to develop the scars that we all carry from having to learn things ourselves. What is your what's your goal with that, with your coaching program, Terrence? Are you looking at is this something that you're going to work with a small group of realtors on, or is it something you really want to scale?
Yeah, so my goal is to create 500,000 millionaires. And so one of the biggest things is we want to talk about being inspired, but you can be inspired all you want, but you need access to the information, which is level 2 of being inspired. And then level 3 is a roadmap to follow. So those are my 3 things. I'm like, okay, I want to inspire people, but then I want to give them access to the information. And then I need to give them a roadmap. Because one of the things that people don't get is when you're talking about truly high net worth individuals, no one talks about credit score. When do we look up Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk's credit score, or even how much money they make? We talk about their net worth. And so really understanding why we should be tracking our net worth, because as you get into those levels, your balance sheet, your net worth is what's going to underwrite your deals. The deal underwrites itself. But when you're talking about really scaling, and real estate agents aren't thinking like that, and the industry is not set up for us to retire. It's set up to keep us on a hamster wheel. And I have a passion to help real estate entrepreneurs create multiple income streams, create an exit strategy, and have options. And I always say a person with options is a person with power. If you only have one option, you have no power.
So you made the move not too long ago over to join eXp Realty. How did that move play in strategically with your vision for creating 500,000 millionaires?
I truly evaluated, as you can tell by my personality, every model. And forgive me, I sound like a robot today. I've been out at the ranch working with the hay and the cows, and some of my allergies are up a little bit. But I truly evaluated every model. I mean, I sat down with any name under the sun, Robert Refkin and Compass. I was meeting with Gary Keller personally once a week. And I studied every model, and there is no model like eXp in the world. And I mean, any franchise, I could have taken on Sotheby's. I could have been a part of Realty. Literally, there's no model like it. And after I really sat down and studied the model, and Elizabeth Riley gets credit for just staying in front of me with the model in a very informative way, but not pushy. And it fast forward, what probably would have took me 10 years to get into all these other states, it got me there in 30 days. You know, so now I'm in 20 states and 2 countries in the first 10 months of being at eXp. And it just gave me access to my database and all the connections that I have. And it's nothing like it. And it gives everybody that partners with us a seat at the table. We're not just sitting up here as the broker anymore or the C-level executive, and they're down here. We're all shoulder to shoulder, which is very, very important.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So, yeah, I mean, it really does join us at the hips between stock opportunities and revenue share and just the leverage. You know, you're a perfect example of people who want to scale quickly and really have a great model themselves, a team model that you have, and now you have a platform on which to do that. Which, you know, that's just you know, that's why we see the movement, Terrence, is people like you or the smart people in the business are coming over here, is because it creates a better opportunity, not just for you, but for the people that you want to help. And, you know, I mean, you can hear that you speak from the heart with everything that you do. And I think we all understand what your MO here is, and it's bigger than the individual, for sure. You have a beautiful wife and beautiful children. When did you meet your wife?
So I met Erica going into my senior year at Texas A&M. She actually is a Longhorn, so she was at UT. And we got some funny stories about that. But one of the things that we don't talk about is football. She can't talk to me about Texas football, and I don't talk to her. Like, we don't talk about that, because that was one of our first spats when we were just friends in college. She started trying to tell me about what Texas did in football, and I wasn't trying to hear that. But so we met in college, and we were friends, and then we got married. We've been married 14 years, brother. 14 years. We got married
Congratulations. Wow.
right after she graduated from UT. We got married like a couple months after in the Caribbean at St. John, which was beautiful. And so we spent a lot of time in the Caribbean, and we love it. And that's one of the other reasons that EXP is so awesome, because I want to expand into the Caribbean. You know, it's a no-brainer.
Well, you're great. You married up.
Yeah, I did good.
So how do you do it? I mean,
Yeah, tell us how you manage the time. I mean, with all of the businesses that you have, the development that you're doing, the farm and ranch side of your life where you've got cows and you were just talking about feeding them and going and giving them hay and stuff like that. Like, I'm surprised you don't have someone helping out with that.
what's the work-life balance like for you, Terrence?
What I'm going to tell you is probably going to throw you guys off. I only work 4 days a week now. And in December, I'm going down to 3 days a week. So still plan on, I'm going to semi-retire in December, but I'll keep working 3 days a week. And those 3 days, I'm getting after it. I do everything on 15 to 30-minute blocks. And I'll tell you, there's a book that also changed my life. Traction, Gino Wickman.
Yep. Love it.
And really understanding that I'm a visionary, because Rocket Fuel is his other book, and that I need to find integrators. I started scurrying to find more integrators. And man, when I put integrators in the right seats, which Energy Bus is another book that I read, getting the wrong energy off the bus and then getting the right energy on the bus and putting them in the right seats. When I really understood that, I could just be a visionary and I can create, and then they help me execute it. So I would not be who I am without my team, without my wife. She's an integrator. Amber and Rael. There's just some of these foundational people, Shannon, these young ladies that worked for me right out of college at A&M. They've been with me the whole time. And so I just have amazing teams in place. But yeah, man, I will say this, time-wise, I worked way more early on. So now I started really studying Jeff Bezos and Warren Buffett. And I was watching a podcast and he said, I used to make a lot of decisions every day. This was Jeff Bezos. He said, when I was scaling Amazon, I was just making decisions. I was solving problems. He said, and I started focusing on processes and systems. And then I got to a place where I would spend all my time preparing to make that decision. And he said, then I got to a place where I was only making one decision a week, then one decision a month, then one a quarter. He said, now I make one decision a year that impacts my company. And so that's what I'm trying to really do, is just get to where I'm having those higher level thought processes and I'm making those high level decisions.
Wow. Sharpen the axe, man. That's it. Yeah. All right. I want to move to something that I know is very near and dear to your heart, and ask you to talk a little bit about some of the charitable work that you're doing in the community and the camp that you have coming up. Would you tell us a little bit about that, please, sir?
Yeah, so I'm really involved in ministry work, just to talk to people about Christ. My wife was really involved in Young Life in college, but our camp we started as a nonprofit. It's called Terrence Murphy Camp: Football, Finance, and Faith. So instead of just bringing in a bunch of NFL guys signing autographs and stuff, we're actually teaching people about financial literacy. So we're teaching them about credit. We're teaching them about how to buy their first home. We're teaching them why you should invest, why you shouldn't just sit on cash, because no one teaches them this. Cash is trash. It's a fiat currency. You have to leverage it. That's how you build wealth. And then we have a faith piece. So we talk to people about Jesus. We have a worship concert, and then we do the football piece. And so last year we did our first annual Terrence Murphy camp in East Texas, and this year we're doing it in Aggieland at Brazos Christian School. It's a private school we're doing it at, and it's for all ages. So it's not just for football players. I mean, I had doctors and lawyers literally sitting in the financial piece because they're like, I've been a high earner my whole life, but I've never had somebody teach me how to manage my money. So that's what the camp is. That's what our heart is.
For folks in our audience who want to learn more about that, Terrence, where can we go to find out information?
Yeah, if you just go to terrencemurphy.com, and it's this TERRENCE, because people always put A's in there. If you go to terrencemurphy.com and just go to TM Camp, And it's got videos, it's got photos, it's got information, and you can sign up. So we just put the link up, and we had 200 people sign up within the first like 48, 72 hours. So we're going to have to cap it. I think we're capping it at 500 or 600 people. So yeah, if they want to get involved, we just need your prayer. We're just doing God's work. So we would love for you guys to donate and sponsor, because obviously it's free. So we give out Bibles. Everybody gets a Bible. Everybody gets a backpack. Everybody gets a workbook. Everybody gets a water bottle, no matter who you are, a T-shirt, stuff like that. So any sponsorships would benefit us. Obviously, it's a tax write-off because it's a nonprofit, and so you got that information.
And what's your vision for this? Where do you see it going? How big?
Man, I see this camp just making an impact, and then those people making an impact. Because last year when we did it in East Texas, people were talking about it for weeks. No one's ever done anything like this in East Texas. And, like I said, we could go home and just do football, but that's not my heart. I want to do what I'm passionate about, which is football, finance, which ends up being real estate, and then Jesus. So we're sandwiching them in. And when I first pitched to my team this vision, they were all looking at me like, what are you talking about? But once they saw it all come together, it was amazing. I mean, we literally had people coming up, giving their lives to Christ during worship. It was amazing.
It's awesome. How do you want people to remember you? What do you want written on your tombstone, Terrence?
I would say hardworking guy. Pretty much my core values. So all my company's core values and myself, we share the same. It's an acronym. It's called EPIGH, EPIGH, excellence, passion, integrity, growth, and hard work. And I just try to embody those every day. And no matter where you saw me in life, high or low, up or down, the core of who I am will never change. Will I evolve? Yes. But I always say money, resources, they're just a magnifying glass of who you already are. If you're a giver with no money, when you get money, guess what you'll be? A giver. If you're a bad person with no money and an a-hole, forgive my language, then you will be an asshole when you get money. So I just always say it's just a magnifying glass of who we are, and because we're not taking any of this with us anyway.
Right. Now your children how old are your children now?
Yeah, so Taryn is 11, and Tatiana just turned 8 this last week, and then Terrence Jr. is 5. And those two my middle kid and my baby, they're two little animals. So they're athletes, and they already want to take over the world now. So they got my personalities.
So they got your DNA for sure. Is there anything about the way you're raising your kids? Is it anything that's different than the way you were raised?
It is. A couple of things that are different. We're raising them in the church for sure, as that, and I was raised in the church. One of the things that we're doing differently is I want them to be free thinkers. They're just not accepting stuff for truth, like going and doing your own research and like really educating yourself. And we're praying about this. We're probably going to take our kids out of school after 9th grade and homeschool them and actually teach them a lot of the stuff that they should be being taught. But that's probably another podcast. But yeah, I'm just passionate about what we're teaching our kids. I mean, ACT, SAT, geometry. I mean, what are we doing with any of that? And why does it matter? We're just wasting time. So I want to teach my kids what they actually need versus what they're being forced to learn. So that probably would be the biggest change that I may be making.
Wow. That's
spot on
really
with
what
that.
it's
Yeah,
all
yeah,
about, isn't it?
yeah.
I mean, you look at all the stuff that they're teaching in school, algebra 2. How often do you go reach into your bag of tricks and pull trig and all of that stuff out? Not very often.
Not at all, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
and here's the thing. The most formidable years of your brain, they're using up for stuff that we're not going to use. And so for me, I'm going to call other entrepreneurs and say, hey, can my son come work at your company for a couple of weeks? Don't pay him a dime. He's just going to come there and shadow and work and intern. Those are the kind of things that I'm going to be doing with my kids in high school. So when they're 18 because I told them, you guys don't have to go to college. But if you go to college, you're going to know exactly what you're doing. You're not going to college to figure it out. You're going to go there knowing it, or you're going to get right into entrepreneurship or in the ministry.
Wow.
Love it.
That's the kind of parenting we're missing.
That's it.
In this country.
That's exactly right.
That's for sure. Terrence, I want to give you one opportunity to say a parting word to our audience today. What do you have for them?
Yeah, I would just tell them, and sorry again, guys, like I said, my allergies are up. I don't sound like this I have a raspy voice, but it's even worse today. But my thing would be is really short, is be yourself. Everybody else is already taken. Just be yourself. God made you.
I love that.
He gave you very unique fingerprints for a reason. And because he made you that special, that he decided to give you your own DNA, your own personality, your own strengths and weaknesses, your own gifts, and just be okay with being who you are. Now, yeah, we want to be a better version of ourselves. But I think as a culture, we've got to this place where we feel like we always got to be chasing someone else, and we just need to run our own race. So that's my parting thought.
Wow.
Mic drop.
Yeah. This looks like a ESPN Hall of Fame episode right here. Terrence, you dropped some incredible value and nuggets for us today. And man, can't wait to watch that afterburner that you're going to hit here at EXP as you go out and do things, do God's work, out into the world, and we're excited to know you and to be friends and now business partners with you, and very thankful and grateful for who you are with your heart and obviously your head. I mean, you're a super smart guy and have made some really, really solid business decisions and continue to build. And again, you're not about the profit, you're about the profit motive. And, we can see that you're turning, a lot of the fruit that you're harvesting here back to helping the community, and want to wish you the best with your camp. Love to help you with that if we could. And you have a podcast real quick as well, I believe, right? You want to tell us about that, and then we're going to have to hop here. But what's your podcast?
Yeah, we'll close with that. And I need to get you guys on the podcast. I need to do a double feature. It's just Real Estate Entrepreneur with Terrence Murphy. So I didn't want to just be a realtor or a builder or a developer. So that's why I named it Real Estate Entrepreneur, because we're talking about all things real estate with Terrence Murphy. We just started about 13 months ago, and we hit 50,000 downloads in the first 12 months. So it's all organic,
Yeah. I've been listening to your podcast on your Instagram reels and stories, and it's very insightful when you talk. It really is entrepreneurship. It's not just real estate. So I think it's really unique on how you're tackling that side with the podcast. So keep it up, man. That's great content. So
yeah. We're still open-minded. We got a lot to learn too, so we're gonna look over your shoulder,
especially
a little bit.
on NFTs.
Oh, NFTs. Okay, we'll have to talk about that on
his show,
podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Well, my friend, hey, listen, give the best to Erica. We're so excited for you guys and your beautiful family, and thank you again for being here. I know you're on 15-minute increments, and you are a busy guy, and thank goodness. And I wish you the best in your early retirement too. I'm 63, and I have to work more than 3 days a week. So kudos to you, and God bless you, brother. We'll catch up with you real soon, man. Look forward to seeing you again.
God bless you guys. See you soon. Thank you again.
Thanks, Terrence.
Yes, sir, Terrence.
All right, friend.
Hey, that
friend, son, man.
awesome.
I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
Terrence lights me up.
He's a really
like
solid
nothing
dude.
else.
Really
Yeah.
solid guy.
Yeah.
Led by faith.
Trelvis,
So,
did you know about Terrence
before
in
the
his
show?
in his story?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. It was really cool to get the inside perspective from him.
I'll tell you, man, what a guy. It's just incredible. And speaking of what a guys, you're a great guy too. I just want to make sure you know that.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Travis, we love you, man.
Appreciate
Absolutely.
it, man. Those are great guys at the table right now. So it's just a group of great guys.
Oh, there. Yeah, I see him.
Yeah,
The great guys and ladies are in our audience right now, and thank you all for being here
thanks
so
for
much.
listening.
If it wasn't for you, there wouldn't be us up here doing
exactly
this.
right.
So we thank you so much. Next week, we're going to be actually hosting Glenn Bill for Source of Sales at the Hilton Granite Park. If you'd like tickets, get a hold of us. We have a few complimentary tickets that I've been saving for my closest friends. That's next Wednesday and Thursday, March 30th and 31st. Glenn is going to break it down out of his new book called Source of Sales. You don't want to miss this. Reach out if you'd like to come see it with us.
Some special guests coming in town too. So,
Yes, we do. We got a bunch. We're going to be announcing that shortly. But in the meantime, you guys have a great weekend. This Friday edition of Cliff's Notes. We'll see you next time. All right, folks, tune in to Cliff's Notes every Thursday at 1 o'clock Central for the tips, tricks, and tactics to explode your business. I guarantee it.